Turn that damn juice on!
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Andrew Ellis. Curtis Wilkerson will be joining us later. He's actually here in the Kenny Payne press conference, which started at noon. So I'm sure he's going to come back on the show with some really great stuff there from Kenny Payne. But don't worry, he'll be joining us here in a little bit. But we appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in and making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. So, Andrew, it's a Friday, man. How we feeling today? How we feeling?
Feeling pretty good, man. You know, when that game happened Tuesday, we all immediately kind of looked to the rest of the week and we were like, good Lord, there's a lot of time between now and Saturday when the Hogs play again. And we have no guarantee that that's going to go well either. But we were just really worried about how these dog days right here were going to go. But we've pretty much made it. We've made it, and we're alive. We're intact. And I don't feel any better about Arkansas basketball. I think they still stink, but we at least have survived. And so I still have my sanity about me, and I'm in a decent mood, all things considered.
Yeah, the weather's somewhat nice for now. It'll probably change here in a little bit. But yeah, the vibes are high, and we're going to have a lot of things to discuss here on the show. We're going to preview the weekend of sports because there's a lot going on there. We're going to get into your SEC updates. We'll have a chance also to hear from our good friend Bobby Bones, who, of course, is I would say what he does, but he does so much it would take too long. So it just he's a personality, a very major personality. But he'll be going to be joining us to talk a little bit about the Razorback fans, but also provides a little bit of positivity for all of you out there. So we'll get to that. And, of course, your phone calls and your chats. So hop into the chat if you want to get on the conversation. You can also call in at 478-344-6623. And Andrew, I know we've talked ad nauseum past few days about John Calipari and Arkansas basketball and everything. And people are probably kind of disgusted at this point, just continuing to debate it and argue about it. But, you know, the one thing I kind of wanted to dive into, at least I think it's fascinating, where I was looking through Cal's, you know, his repertoire, his Wikipedia, his everything of his career and all of that. And it's not to say he's been perfect and he's not always been awesome, but I don't think there's ever been a time that he's been lower in his career, like where, I mean, his scrutiny that is going his way. I know he didn't do well in the NBA, but it's almost like people didn't remember, didn't really care because NBA coaches come and go and everything like that. But as far as someone who's as famous as he is, as well known as he is, to go through what he's going through now, I don't think that he's ever hit a lower point in his career from the amount of heat and criticisms that he's hearing. And it's always a matter of how someone responds to that. Does it bother him? Does he think about it? Does he just ignore it? Is he above it? I'm going to be fascinated to see how the response will be for Cal going through all of this, and if it even has any impact whatsoever on his psyche, his mentality, and his approach to the game.
It definitely is going to be interesting because it's not like he didn't have weird stretches at Kentucky or weird years. Obviously, he had plenty of disappointing ends to the season. I mean, the last few regular season or NCAA tournaments speak to that. And I mean, he like I said, he went 9-16 just 4 or 5 years ago. And they had that weird year where they lose to Robert Morris in the NIT. So it's not like it was all sunshine and rainbows when he was over there in Lexington, but it was a lot easier to stomach that. A random off year when you're a couple years removed from the national title. When you have a rough start to the season in 2014 and then you end up making the title game, like you build up some goodwill. And obviously Coach Cal, as a legend, as a guy that's been around doing this for a while, built up a lot of goodwill, not only with the Kentucky fan base, but just nationally perspective wise. Like anytime Kentucky had a bad year, we would all celebrate it. We'd be like, hey, this is awesome. But it wasn't like a thing where we were like, man, is Cal capable of winning? Like, we never had to question that. We knew, hey, you just get a couple 5 stars back in there, you'll be right back to kicking. And usually that's what Kentucky did. Because even after that 9-16 year, I know fans have been upset about these last few years, but it's like they still had good regular seasons at least. So there was always kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. There was excuses kind of built in. And again, like just a lot of we never had to really ask a ton of big picture questions about Cal, at least from the national perspective. But when you combine his last few years at Kentucky with now him starting this new chapter at Arkansas and it going about as poorly as it realistically could have gone to this point, it definitely leads to a lot of big picture questions about where he's at in his coaching career, kind of what he's capable of at this point in time. You have the good roster in place to where, like, if when Cal had gotten hired, you had told me, hey, they're going to start off 0-4 in the SEC and 11-6 overall, I would have been like, well, so maybe he just wasn't able to get a ton of talent. Like, he wasn't able to makeshift the roster. And that's true to an extent, but it's like, when they got John L. Davis, when they got Jonas Adu, when he was able to flip all those Kentucky guys, it's like the expectations were set pretty high. And so I think with this Arkansas fan base in particular, he doesn't have that goodwill to lean back on. He doesn't have that, hey, remember when I won a title? Hey, remember that Final Four run? Hey, remember all these guys I put in the NBA? Like, that doesn't really work at Arkansas. And so it definitely is interesting. And I'm a big proponent that once you start losing, it's easier to lose in the future. Once things go south for you, it's very easy. Once that door for quitting opens up, it's very easy to walk through it. And so for Cal, who hasn't been at Arkansas for long, doesn't have a ton of stake in this game, it's definitely going to be interesting to see like how he navigates this. Does he do everything he can to reverse course, or is he just going to kind of say, I'm over the hill. I've made my money. I've won my titles. It is what it is. Like, I'll just be done here. Or is he going to dig deep and be like, hey, I've got to salvage my PR. I've got to salvage the way people feel about me. It's going to be fascinating to see how this thing operates. I mean, because obviously it's gone poorly, but is it going to continue being even worse, or is there going to be any type of light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, because he has no allies right now. Like, if you really look at it, when he was at Kentucky and struggling, the only people that were coming after him or really criticizing him were Kentucky fans. There'd be a few national guys here and there, but that was it. But ever since he's taken the job at Arkansas and where he's at, not only do you have, of course, the Kentucky fans, raising it to an 11 in their hatred and anger towards him and towards everything, but then you have the national media by and large who are coming after him. You have Razorback fans and a lot of them coming after him. I mean, he really doesn't have any sort of like ally in the bunker with him. He's just kind of left to his own. And so now there's nothing to lean on. And I don't know Cal personally at all. Like, I just know what I see. But, we talked yesterday about Muss and how losing impacted him and how it, in fact, you saw it and in the impact that it had. And there would be a lot of cases where he'd turn it around and it'd motivate him and get that fire underneath him, and he hated it. And him and Cal are different people, but I'm wondering now, okay, so how is that going to impact Cal? I think Cal hates losing. I don't think that it's something he's enjoying life right now, but is it going to drive him and motivate him to overcome it? Or is it going to be, hey, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and if it works out, great. And if not, we'll blow it up and do it again next year. It's a matter of, does he still look at this season? Does he still look at what he has right now? And it's worth doing all the things, whatever it takes to turn it around and get the year going. Or is it teetering on the point of, this just wasn't it. I tried something, didn't work. So we'll just cruise through and fix it again next year. That's going to be what I'm looking forward to seeing from him.
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, like, there's no doubt in my mind, like, obviously with this team and the way it's constructed, the roster is underachieving. There's no real argument to the contrary there. And so it's going to be interesting. Like you said, does he just kind of mail it in on this roster? Does he just say, hey, we'll just figure it out next year? Or is there going to be a moment, like, obviously it would need to start immediately. Like, they would need to go out there and upset Missouri. They would need to beat Georgia, like really get some things rolling here. I wonder how he feels. Like, does he feel like there's anything left to salvage with this team? Does he feel like there is a ceiling that this team can tap into that could maybe have something worthwhile going on here? But I mean, there's a lot. I think when you look at Cal, it's not like it's going to take a complete overhaul of him changing the way he views basketball for him to have success, because that's not what he's been doing for the last 20 years. He's been having really talented players win a ton of games. And maybe this isn't the best time to give this speech after Arkansas just missed out on Silly yesterday going to Georgia Tech, which everyone thought was a done deal. But I think that, the case for why this thing would work with Cal was never he's going to reinvent the wheel of how he coaches. He's going to completely change how he approaches basketball and his schematics and all that. It's just a matter of, can he get the right guys in here to be talented and out-talent guys? We thought Arkansas would have a chance to do that this year. Obviously hasn't worked out that way. But moving forward, I think that's going to have to be the focus of, you just have to nail your evaluations. You have to get something out of your talented freshmen that are coming in, your 2 top 5, 5-star guards, and then Arkansas's got to just dominate the portal, which, Cal's had some good portal pickups here in the last few years. Will he be able to really build a roster that way? It's a fair question to ask, but we'll just see if he can do it.
Yeah, I think back also to the coaches that have been here at Arkansas, whether it's basketball or any other sport, and looking at their response of it. Looking at the baseball angle, Dave Van Horn. 2016 is the only year that Dave Van Horn did not make the postseason. And it was awful. Coming off of a World Series year, coming off of having a Golden Spikes Award winner and Tyler Spoon. And it was, I don't know how much you remember about that season, Andrew, but I remember it was so weird. I'm like, all these World Series, never missing postseason. It just felt like, how did this should never happen? Like, how does this happen? But since that point in time, Arkansas has not looked back. Now, I know, we talk about the couple years, whatever. No, I'm talking about just regular seasons and recruiting and everything. Arkansas has never looked back. That's the response. And obviously, it's different with baseball and different with Dave Van Horn. They're different people. But I even think back, as much as I hate the guy, Houston Nutt, but he's still the only coach in Razorback football history to survive and keep his job after back-to-back losing seasons in 04 and 05. How did the response come? Well, they won 10 games and won the SEC West in 06. They had a guy named Darren McFadden. So my point is that it can happen, and it has happened in various sports. But this is something for Cal where, you have no outlets. No one's going to help you with this. Like, no one's having sympathy at all for you. No one. Like, there's no excuses for it. So are you going to tuck tail and run? Are you going to deflect blame to other things and other people? Or are you just going to nut up and get the job done? And I hope he nuts up and gets the job done. I hope that it pisses him off more than anything that they're losing, and that he's going to fight every single second of the day to get this right. That's what I'm hoping for. But as you mentioned, there's no time. He has no time. It has to start now. It has to start now. I know they're playing Missouri tomorrow on the road. Missouri's not a bad SEC team, but they are a more beatable SEC team. It's on the road, so it will be tough. But and it's a big if you find a way to beat Missouri on the road tomorrow, is that going to change the entire outlook of the season and suddenly you're a tournament team again? No. But will it at least inspire some sort of like, hey, there's still fire there enough to where they're doing what they can to find a way to win, to go in, and maybe, just maybe, they can get some positive vibes back, get some momentum. And you got 2 games at home after that. Georgia, who's much better than what people anticipate, and then Oklahoma, who's terrible. Suddenly, those couple of games, if you can, you just got to chip away and get it going just a little bit. It's not going to be easy, but this is the time you have to do it. It has to start tomorrow, because if you lose tomorrow, the alternative is that you're 0-5, and you ain't digging yourself out of that hole. I just don't see any chance, and you know what, that they'll dig themselves out of an 0-5 hole.
Well, what tomorrow would be, if they were to win, would be a massive step forward in the right direction. And we could argue about how big that step forward is, if it's just a minuscule thing. Here, that's all we need, though. That's all the Arkansas fans have been asking for. Hell, we didn't expect Arkansas to come out and be guns a-blazing and look awesome against LSU and turn the season around. But we said, hey, that's a bad SEC team. Beat them. That would be a minuscule step forward. And then we can at least have the conversation about, okay, is this team going in the right direction? But I feel like just with these last, especially these 4 SEC games, you just haven't seen any real progress, any real signs of life, any signs of growth in the right direction. And John, I'm glad you mentioned Dave Van Horn's 2016 season, because I love referencing it, because he was so disgusted with himself, with his staff, with his team, with just everything. And that season allowed DVH to completely reevaluate the way he did things. He really did make those changes, completely change the way he approached things. And that next year, Arkansas really overachieved. And then in 2018, should have won the damn near the national title. And like you said, Arkansas baseball elevated as a program that year. They that's whenever things started to really fall into place for DVH, and he proved he's not going to leave any stone unturned. He's going to continue to tinker, and since then, college baseball has continued to evolve with the transfer portal, and the bats have changed, the balls have changed, more home runs, and the game's moving in this direction, and DVH has continued to move with it. And I think the big red flag here, obviously with Calipari, is I don't think he's capable of that. And I don't know, maybe not even capable, but he's shown throughout his track record is he's not going to be a guy that continuously changes his stripes to match what everything else is doing. He's always been a guy who, he's got the best team, he's got the best players. You have to adjust to him. I think if you're an Arkansas fan looking for like a real case that it's going to turn around here, it has to come with, one, that it's not going to come from the current staff, which is a bunch of yes men. It's going to come from him getting in someone like a John Welch, someone to replace that, having that offensive guru that really can take these pieces that Cal brings in and does something with them. I definitely, like, if we're waiting with bated breath for Cal to be like, you know what, I'm going to start trying new things now. Here at whatever, 65 years old, like that, I'm going to start changing the way I approach things like that. I think he's shown that's not going to happen. And that's what DVH has shown, is that he will make whatever changes he needs if he's not getting what he wants. And same with Eric Musselman. If he saw something he didn't like, he would change it almost to a fault, where I was like, hey, dude, maybe you don't have to sub that much. Cal is the exact opposite, where it's like he's like, here are our circumstances. Let's just go out there and see if it works. And for Arkansas, it just isn't working.
No. And also, again, I know we're talking a lot of baseball, but if you think back to that year when in Dave, they had a guy named Tony Vitale was an assistant on those years in that team. And what happened after 2016? Dave made a move, not a controversial move, but a one that he had Dave Jorn as his pitching coach forever. And he's like, we make a move. And guess who they hired? A guy named Wes Johnson. And you saw what the changes were. But I guess the fear, and not saying it's the exact way, but the fear is that Dave Van Horn still has not won the big one yet. We know that. Like it's the one thing that he's missing in his entire resume is that College World Series title. And that can drive somebody. But like Nolan Richardson always said about, once you create a monster, you got to feed it. I think, I love Nolan Richardson, but I look back to that time after he won the national title and then they were runners up the next year, things started to change a little bit. They went to the NIT in 97, the Sweet 16 in 1998, but then 99 they underachieved, 2000 they underachieved. They started and it created this tension. And he even mentioned, I think it was in that 40 Minutes of Hell documentary, he's like, the fire just kind of went out because you got to the pinnacle. You did that. And so that is where with Cal, a matter of how much is it going to motivate him? Is it to the point to where he's a Hall of Fame coach already? Like he is in the Hall of Fame. He has been to every Final Four. He has won a national title. He has accomplished literally everything you can at the college basketball level. So what is driving him? What is the thing that is driving him to become and to be the greatest coach that he can be? I don't know. He can say what it is. And I remember he came in saying, I'm re-energized. I'm all that. Well, it doesn't seem like it, at least in the results. Are you still having that fire in your belly to go out and to win at the highest level and do whatever it takes to win? Because once you experience it and once you're done with it, especially in the fact of, what was it, 12, 13 years ago when he won it, it's like, is it still there? Like, what is your motivation? What is the point you're wanting to make? That's my fear, is that the fire is not there because he already accomplished it. So, what else does he need to prove to anybody at this point?
It's definitely not going to be his long-standing, passionate relationship with the Arkansas fan base. It's like, I don't know if he necessarily feels that, where he's like, oh, I owe it to these people. I've got to give them a great team. Yeah. Like, I think if tomorrow he were not the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, I don't think he would think about Fayetteville once again. Oh. And who would be to blame him? I mean, he's done a lot in his life. He's been a lot of places. He's been around the coolest guys in the world. Like, of course he doesn't. But I definitely don't think there's like that passion and that pride for the program. And look, I always kind of think that's an overblown narrative when we're talking about it. Like, I don't think Eric Musselman came to Arkansas with a passion and pride for Arkansas, but he took pride in what he did. And he was the head coach at Arkansas. And so he wasn't going to look like an idiot on national television. And so I agree. Like, I think it's a very concerning thing to think about, that like Cal has nothing really to gain here other than just, more wins and potentially maybe another title or whatever. But it's like, I don't think like there's something that's real. There's not a carrot dangling in front of his face that's like, you got to go get that. Your hope, if you're an Arkansas fan, is that he just feels an immense sense of pride for his own self. And he's like, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to have a basketball team that stinks. I don't want to be getting mocked by everyone on the internet. But it's a lot easier for Cal to look past all that than it is us, because this is all we have. But Cal has a lot. It's a lot. It's really hard to have a top level work ethic when you're sleeping on $1,000 sheets. Like, it just is. And so look, if, I think there's a very real scenario where this doesn't work out. Cal moves on and he's like, all right, I'll never think about that again in my life.
Yeah. And this is so random and so like not mattering at all. But, you think about coaches when they finally retire, where they end up living and all of that. It's like, I just don't see John Calipari, say if he even has high level success at Arkansas, I don't think he's like, all right, I'm retired. I'm going to live in Fayetteville. I think he's going back to the Northeast or whatever. That's fine. I'm not criticizing it. It's just, we've seen so many things and cases of coaches here, like Dave Van Horn. Dave Van Horn's not going to move away anywhere else once he retires. Nolan Richardson did not leave after he got fired. He stayed we got Jeff Long still living here in Northwest Arkansas after all of that. So, Cal, whether he wins it or whatever it is, he's going to move on, and he's going to be mainly remembered for his time at Kentucky, no matter what happens, and that's fine. But it's a matter of how are people going to view him? What's he going to be remembered for? And let's also be honest about it. The only reason Calipari is here at Arkansas is not because of Arkansas. It's not because of the fans. It's not because of the pageantry, tradition, all that. It's because John Tyson. That's why he's here, and John Tyson providing the means to help him succeed here. That's why he's here, and that's fine. I don't care why you're here. I just want you to win while you're here. And I think Razorback fans and everybody in general will feel the same way. I don't care what brought you to Arkansas. Yeah, it'd be great, a story to say, it's just the fans and the Nolan Richardsons and the pageantry. Yeah, it'd be great to say that. But if money was the only reason you came here, or if a buddy of yours like John Tyson is the only reason you came here, fine, just win. I literally don't care about anything else. So.
Yeah, we always talk about how we don't think fans should be pocket watching, especially when it comes to players of like, oh, what's this guy getting paid or whatever. But no, I think that's perfectly a great point. Like, all that stuff really does not matter to me.
Not at all.
Like, it really doesn't. And even the concept of like mercenaries, hired guns that are coming in to win games for your program, that's the world we live in, and we're all kind of fine with that. And that in and of itself is not the problem. Like, Nelly Davis is not bad because he's getting money. He's just bad because it just isn't working. He's just bad. And it's like, it's one of those things where, like you said, we're cool with the concept and the idea that like, Cal can't have success at Arkansas. It's like, I don't know. Like, I feel like we were perfectly fine with the context of you're coming here because of John Tyson. We're going to give you a huge amount of money. You're going to build whatever roster you want to build. We'll win a lot of games. We'll probably lose in the tournament, but we'll have a lot of fun doing it. That was kind of the premise. And we can't even get that. And so it's disappointing, man. And I understand why Razorback fans, don't take a ton of pride in Calipari, who doesn't seem to take a ton of pride in them.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. But folks, we'll have plenty of things to discuss. I know people wondering Curtis will be here shortly. Don't worry. He's doing the press conference with one Kenny Payne. So we'll get to hear from him here in a little bit, and then he'll hop on with us. But we'll get to your chats as well as some phone calls here in just a second. But let's get to some of the chats. Transplant Texan brought this up. He said, word on the Kentucky ex-player streak, which is Willie Cauley-Stein, which I know that I think he went on KSR the other day, but he was saying Cal is not coaching as tough, doesn't command room during practice, players not listening to him, so Cal has lost his fire, which, hey, I mean, that could very well be the case. I mean, it could be. But, I mean, at the same time, we're not there. We're not in those practices. Right. We don't know.
I have nothing. I have no evidence, no anything to like dispute that. Like, I'm not saying Willie Cauley-Stein's for sure right, but I certainly can't tell him he's wrong.
No, and not at all. And John also says, John says, exactly what can he do to change the course? Is there a solution? Why hasn't he used it? Would really like to hear someone respond to that.
I mean, look, like I said, it's not going to be because Cal does something completely differently. Your hope has to be that this current team that they have, which, by the way, it's 9 guys. We know who the 9 guys are. There's no moves to make in terms of changing the rotation. You can change the lineups you use, but it's not going to be new guys that enter this fold. You just have to hope that this team can find some type of identity. And those things take a lot of time. I mean, there's been a lot of years where Eric Musselman, some of his best teams at this point in the year, hadn't found that identity. Now, they hadn't dug quite as big of a hole as this team did, although I would say that year where Arkansas lost to Hofstra and lost to Vanderbilt at home, they were in the 80s and 90s of net for a while there, and Arkansas is not quite there yet. You just have to hope that this team finds some semblance of an identity. And how that happens, that's up to Cal to figure out, and I'm sure he totally will. But really, it's like this team doesn't even seem like they're trending toward that. Those Musselman teams at least were kind of inching toward it, getting better and better on the defensive end. And ultimately they found an identity with that toughness and that defense. I don't know what this team's identity is. And by the way, even last year's Kentucky team, because by the way, a lot of Kentucky fans are like, Cal's always been bad. We told you he was going to be bad. He ain't never gone 0-4 in the SEC. Like, that's never, like, last year's Kentucky team that they referenced went 13-5 in the SEC before getting embarrassed in the tournament. We would kill for that. That would be awesome. That would be like a dream scenario. That team last year took a while to really find their identity, and a lot of it came, again, because of John Welch and the offense he had schemed up and the tempo they played with. So you just got to hope this team finds some semblance of an identity, but I don't think they're really getting close to it.
Yeah, and speak of the devil, he shall appear. We got a one Curtis Wilkerson now officially joining us after I'm sure what was a really rigoring type of press conference. So what's up, Curtis?
Hey guys. I don't know about you, but Kenny Payne's exactly who I want to hear from when you haven't won a game in 2025. So
I mean, I couldn't think of anybody better to hear from right now, to be honest.
now, like, I mean, in all honesty, I wish they would give us a player at this point. Like, give us Trevin, just so he can talk about the Mizzou thing or whatever. Just some different perspectives and voices if you're not going to give us Cal. But I don't know, man. Like it was a lengthy press conference. I don't have a problem. I didn't disagree with anything Kenny Payne said. I mean, they understand what their issues are, the things that they need to work on, the areas they need to improve. Sounds like they're emphasizing the right things, but I mean, we are to the point of, we're kind of tired of hearing about the process. We want to see some progress. Right. And so he said a lot of good things there, believe it or not, but it all comes down to whether or not it shows on the floor on Saturday.
Yep. We'll have to see. Cause we've been talking about, just before we move on, I just wanted your thoughts, Curtis. We were talking about how Cal will respond. Cause this is without question, I would think the lowest he has had to feel, and maybe he doesn't feel, but the scrutiny, the not having really anyone in his foxhole with him. I mean, he is getting it from all sides, and it's about how he's going to respond. And something we were discussing is he the type that's going to respond with, all right, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win right now, and I'm going to get to the lab. I'm going to do this, or is it going to be, well, can't win with these guys, got to just wait till next season, blow it up, and get a new roster in it? Like that to me is going to be the interesting thing here in the next week or so. Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, Kenny Payne, I mean, which he is like the official mouthpiece and spokesperson for John Calipari. When I can't make it to Sassy's for the radio show, we're going to sing Kenny over there, and I'm going to go to the World Series, But so he was asked about just Cal's leadership through the struggles here, and again, like he doesn't. People might not want to hear from him, but like he didn't say anything bad there. But what he said is like basically like you're not identified as a leader or the type of leader that you are when things are going well. And when you're winning a ton of games, it's about how you kind of handle adversity when things are swirling, the things you do to help get your team out of it. And so he talked a lot about how Cal's been going overboard on trying to find the balance between, really getting after it and staying on the guys and trying to hold them accountable. But there's also something to be said for those guys needing confidence too, because it would be easy for them to have none of that. And that's a weird balance to strike there. Is he going to be able to do that? I don't know. He's talked about dragging this team over the finish line. What does that mean? It's like there's a lot of different ways that could go, but at the end of the day, at least I've been told that this is typically about the time of year when his teams start playing better basketball. They're usually not playing this poorly, but this is usually about the time where they start to kind of figure it out and get it going a little bit. And all we can do is just kind of hope that will be the case here with this team. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, that's the biggest key is you hope, you think, maybe, but who knows? Until it actually happens, it's hard to have any sort of confidence with it right at this point. Let's get to a few calls real quick too before we continue on to some other things too. Let's hear from Jeremy, who's in Tulsa. It's been a while, Jeremy. What's up, man?
Hey, fellas. Yeah, it has been a while, John. Good to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
I haven't been calling in lately, but I still listen to every show and listen to every post game, regardless of how difficult Arkansas sports are playing right now. So I don't know. I got a basketball statement and a baseball question for Andrew. Actually, two questions for Andrew. I went to the Florida game on Saturday. My brother and I made the trip over there to watch, Arkansas play. And, up until this LSU game, if you were looking to be a little optimistic, you could make the argument, okay, you went to number one Tennessee, and you lost, one of the best teams in the country. Ole Miss, maybe the hottest team in the country, just went to Bama and won, lost to them by 8, I believe. And then play a red hot Florida team and you lost. And, the argument could be, well, you lost to really, really good teams, all, ranked. You haven't really lost to a bad team all year. And, Andrew or Curtis, you said, got to win the next 4, which I totally agreed with, including the LSU game. But now it's like after you've lost this LSU game, all that argument's gone because now you have lost to a bad team, another bottom dweller in the SEC. So there's really nowhere to point. So I guess just, hoping this team can turn it around. If not, hopefully Cal can turn around in year 2 for basketball. Andrew, my baseball question, my first one, I DM'd you on Facebook, but I was listening to one of your bombastics the other day, and you had a bombastic hat on. I didn't know if you guys sold those or not. So if you do, can I get one somewhere? If not, that's totally cool as well. Or if you want to send me yours, Andrew, my address.
Maybe we'll have to get something going. These are actually just made by my girlfriend. She has a Cricut is what it's called. And she just gets the logo on Canva and all that and just prints it out and does it. And so she's made a couple for me. And so I'll throw them on there every now and then. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to get something going on that soon.
Yeah,
I'll let you know.
I'll just say this, Jeremy. Just stay tuned because we'll have some stuff for you available for purchase before baseball season.
Yeah, get that going, man. And I'd love to get some of you guys' merchandise. Maybe get a picture of all 3 of you guys' faces on there too. But my last question is, Andrew, I saw Perfect Game posted. I think we were number 13. D1 Baseball came out, said we were number 5. And I'm not, all into the rankings, especially this early in the season. But I was just going to ask you, based on what you've seen from like the pitching staff and the roster, which number do you think we're closer to start the season? Is it that 5 or is it that 13? I'll let you guys go. Hey, I saw your post on Facebook of the views that you guys had in 2024. Congratulations. And you guys had, a couple months off there too. So I expect 2025 to be nothing but better. So keep up the good work, guys. I appreciate it. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, to answer his question, I definitely think Arkansas is closer to the 5. And I actually did an episode on the Bombastic podcast, kind of seeing through Perfect Game's ranking because they had a bunch of Arkansas players ranked extremely highly. Like a top freshman, Arkansas had 2 of them. Top sophomores, Arkansas had 6 of them. Top juniors, Arkansas had 5 of them. Top seniors, Arkansas had 3 of them. So it's like, if Arkansas's got some of the best players in every class, they've got all these preseason All-Americans. How does that really work out? I've honestly, I'm not trying to make fun of Perfect Game here, but pretty much every fan base I've seen has been like, what the hell is Perfect Game talking about? Like they don't seem to they're kind of all over the map. And they have Gabe Gackle as the number 1 relief pitcher in the country when he's not going to make a relief appearance all season. And there's been a lot of cases like that where other teams are like, they have this guy as their first team second baseman, and he's playing left field for us this year. So I think Perfect Game is great for scouting, but I don't know if they're necessarily the best team coverage.
Well, there you have it. Because I know, baseball, I keep saying February 14th, right, is Valentine's Day, first game of the season. So it'll be here before you know it. But I tell you what, let's go ahead and since Arkansas and Missouri are playing each other in basketball tomorrow, let's go ahead and jump into your Alumni Hall question of the day. You can shop them online at InsideArkansas.com/Alumni Hall. See all the great Razorback apparel. We're going to be there live for Inside Arkansas Live a week from today. So we're really excited about that. Always love hanging out with our friends over at Alumni Hall, 3417 North College Avenue. Again, you can shop them online at InsideArkansas.com/Alumni Hall. It's the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. I'm just curious because, Curtis, I know that you get accused of being a Missouri fan all the time for, reasons. And I know that obviously Arkansas and Missouri have played each other a lot in basketball, but what's the first game pops up in y'all's mind when you think Arkansas and Missouri basketball? What's the most memorable one? Recently, old school, whichever it is.
That's a good question. Probably the post-COVID year. I guess it'd be 2020, 2021. At Missouri would be one that really stands out to me. Earlier in the year, Missouri came to town. It was right after Justin Smith got hurt, beat the crap out of Arkansas in Bud. Musk got ejected. It was a freaking mess. They went there later in the year. Both teams were really, really good. I think Missouri was top 10 at the time, and Arkansas wound up winning that game in overtime. Jalen Tate was doing some really good things there, made some clutch free throws. That was a really, really fun game that I remember if we're talking about fond memories maybe there. But then the one that immediately, in fairness, came to my mind when you brought it up was a couple years ago when they went there with the Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh team, and they lost by 3. And then the next day, the SEC had to issue the apology for the blown charge call there. That one was wild. That's about as mad as I've ever seen Eric Musselman too.
But dude, I want to say real quick before you get to yours, Andrew, was it that you that received a text, or I'm sure you did, you still do all the time, but maybe it was you, or maybe I did, maybe everybody did, but I remember somebody was sending messages just basically being like, from the coaching staff, this was awful, this is terrible, and this is very making sure that this one game was everyone knew how pissed they were about it.
Oh yeah, it happened for that game. It happened for the Creighton game in Maui.
Yeah,
one that I really remember. But oh yeah, man.
So there's the one we've talked about it a few times. Mike Anderson's first year at Arkansas when they had, and also that was the first time Arkansas had played Missouri in a while, and their first time playing as conference opponents. This is the most Mike Anderson stat of all time, actually. So Arkansas wins that first matchup that year in 2012-13. They win 73-71 in Fayetteville. Really fun game. Came down to the wire, ruckus crowd, all that. They go to Como 3 weeks later and lose 93-63.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do a mathematic evaluation of how much home court advantage should matter for Arkansas, roughly 32 points.
Yep. That was the I believe that was the Frank Haith team that it wasn't the 30-win one, but it was the one that was still pretty good. What was it? Oriaki, was that his name? The UConn transfer. I think that came in the big man back then. But yeah, I'm glad you brought those up, Andrew, because I was, of course, in the student section for that first win. That was a crazy one because BJ Young, who is also from Missouri, I believe St. Louis, he kind of like Arkansas was down by 4 with like 30 seconds to go. And he gets back-to-back and ones to take the lead. Arkansas stole that game, and it was great because man, the Missouri fans showed up too. They were they were up in the upper deck, just giving Mike Anderson all types of hell. But yeah, that was pretty wild. Other ones I remember, and when I say remember, it's more highlights. But Arkansas, like biggest win ever that they had against a decent opponent was back in the 93-94 season. It was the first real game in Fayetteville against a big opponent, dedicating Bud Walton Arena. They beat a Missouri team that finished undefeated in the Big 8 and was the number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. They beat them 120-68. So that was one, but I liked how you brought up that one, Curtis, of the thing with the problems there of being pissed off and the officiating, because that was really bad.
It's crazy.
But also the one I remember, guys, the year that Arkansas won in overtime when Missouri was number 10, and it was the Justin Smith, Moses Moody year, because that one was an intense game there during the COVID year. And I remember it not only went to overtime, but Justin Smith kind of took over late. Arkansas stormed back, and they called a goaltend on Jalen Tate at the end of the game, at the end of overtime, and he lost his mind. He was like, no way, but they're like, hey, chill out. We're going to review it. He's like, okay. And they reviewed it, and it was just a clean block.
Yeah.
And no problems there. And I think that was one like Devo got the steal when they passed it in and to try to do something with it. But yeah, that was a pretty intense game because I forgot Missouri was number 10 in the country at that point.
Right.
I think that was with the coach, Lonzo. No, Lonzo, not Lonzo. What was
Condo Martin.
Lonzo Martin. Thank you. Yeah. So but
that was right. I was just going to, I think that was right after Arkansas had just gone to Rupp and won. And it's been a minute since they did that. And yeah. And then they went and got the big one over Mizzou. And I think like Arkansas had been winning, and really coming around. But I think it was at that point after that Missouri win where we were kind of looking at it going, okay, like these dudes might, like they were trending for the tournament and everything. But that's when we were like, all right, these guys might actually be really good. So,
yeah.
You know what? I'm a big proponent of, it's not about what you do, it's about who you do it with. And so my personal all-time favorite Arkansas Missouri basketball game was last February when I got to watch the game with the two of you, and we were in Arlington. We had a nice little watch party. Caliph battle, 42 points.
That was fun.
That was also one of the few like bright moments of last year's SEC run for the Arkansas basketball team. And it's also just crazy because that also completed, that was in the middle of Missouri going winless in the SEC play, or at least in 2024. Who just would have thought all of these things would have played out the way that they played out, and that the next time Arkansas played Missouri in basketball, we would be in these dire straits the way that we are. At least we probably could have predicted the dire straits, but maybe not the way it played out.
Yeah. That's a fact. Wasn't so would it have been, I'm thinking about my years here. It would have been Muss's first year, right? When Isaiah Joe got hurt and he missed so much time, his return game was against Missouri, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that was his first game back. And
they lost 5 straight games without him.
Yeah.
And I think Missouri was kind of like,
here it is. Yeah, this was his first game back. He started, he scored 21 points, went 5 of 10 from 3, and Arkansas won by 10. So it's good to get him back.
Man, those Missouri teams had some talent. You know, like they were pretty solid. I mean, you know, Xavier Pinson was a solid player. Jeremiah Tillman, he was always, I always felt like he killed Arkansas. And Mark Smith was like the ultimate just college shooter that had no chance of playing in the NBA, but was like, you couldn't leave him open though.
Yeah. That was great. I got a little fun trivia for you guys, though. I mean, not that you care, but there's a lot of records in this series. There's been certain records of note for Arkansas and Missouri. For instance, back in 1991, when Arkansas beat Missouri, they ended a 34-game winning streak by Missouri. Arkansas also, their most blocks ever in a single game in basketball history happened in 95-96 season, where they had 18 blocks in a single game. And also back in 2015, which I almost forgot about this game. This is Mike Anderson. Arkansas broke the record for the least amount of turnovers in a single game with 3. And then the final one in 2016, when Arkansas went to Columbia and won by 33 points. That must have been the Kim Anderson days. But Arkansas had hold the record, or their own record for SEC game field goal percentage, where they shot 63% from the field. So just a couple of little fun facts for you.
I went to one Arkansas and Missouri game at Missouri. It was so hard to go to any games for the longest when my teams were usually playing the same days they were, but we had an off weekend and me and my dad went to Arkansas Mizzou at Missouri, and it was the Daniel Gafford, Daryl Macon, Jalen Barford year. And it was when they had Michael Porter Jr. was back from his back injury, and they had all those guys. But I was feeling so good about it, man, because Arkansas was playing well. And they just got their ass kicked in that game. I was all so mad, man.
Hey, shout out Jonte Porter.
Every time I go there, something bad happens. So I don't.
Well, you're not going there tomorrow, right?
No, absolutely not.
You never go to Como again? Do you have any reason to ever go to Como?
No, unless we go together for a game. There's no reason for me to go there. So
I don't know if I really want to ever. Because what are they called? The Antlers? Isn't that their name? That they're like, that they got banned for a while. Their student section people, they got banned because they were literally so awful and doing horrible things. I wanted to say that, like, I read a story about this, that the reason that they got banned for at least a period of time is that they went after a player whose mom just passed away like the year before with cancer. And they said, had signs and stuff saying horrible things about her.
Really?
And I was like, wow. Yeah. Well, there's a certain line that you just don't want to cross, folks, but yeah, pretty intense stuff. And I'm sure it'll be a pretty raucous atmosphere tomorrow. I mean, Missouri's not great, but they're definitely competitive and a lot better than they were a year ago. And can we go ahead and just get out of the way? Eli Drinkwitz is going to be there, and he's going to make sure he's seen. And they're probably going to present the Battle Line Rivalry Trophy or whatever. Like, that's 100% happening tomorrow, right?
Yeah, that is going to happen. Yeah. I hadn't really thought about that yet, but you're right.
Yeah.
That's a guarantee.
It's so dumb. But sorry. Also, another real quick, a little fun factoid. Arkansas in Columbia. This is what's crazy. They've played in Columbia 30 times. Arkansas is 13-17 there. That's actually a pretty good record, I feel like, for an SEC venue. So they've had some success there.
That's odd.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and continue on and get to your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. We'll have some of your chats and everything else. Of course, Bobby Bones will be joining us later in the show as well. Guys, I guess they made it official yesterday that Nick Perry is the coach of the cornerbacks for the Razorbacks, or at least the secondary, as it's been put out. But he joins the Razorbacks from the Seattle Seahawks. He spent the 2024 season as a defensive assistant. And prior to that, he worked 3 seasons for the Atlanta Falcons as the team's assistant wide receivers coach. And then also 2 years as an assistant defensive backs coach. He played for the Alabama Crimson Tide back in 2013 and 2014. So officially official, I guess. Arkansas has a cornerbacks coach.
He's getting paid a little bit more than Darren Wilson was too, if I read right.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, he was there. I'm curious when we'll actually get to hear from him in a press conference, because he was on the 2010. He was on Alabama from 2010 to 2014. So there's a lot of interesting games with Arkansas and Alabama in those stretches. Of course, 2010 one in Razorback Stadium. 2011 that was Blowout City, but then 2012 and 2013 back-to-back 52-0 games, and then 2014, which was the 1-point victory for them. So he's had some interesting experiences there. So look forward to hearing from him.
I think this is the missing piece, actually. And I think that this is the piece that will put Arkansas over the top. I'm now going 8-4, 9-3. No, but seriously, I like the pickup. I like the NFL experience. I'm not going to sit here and act like I have a good understanding of how his cornerback leadership is going to guide this room. But, I think that's interesting that he's getting paid more than Darren Wilson. And I like the pickup. And I think that's about all I can say about it.
Yep. I mean, that's pretty much all anybody can say about it. And also I'm making this a Arkansas update because it is kind of reflective. Curse, I know you retweeted it and people were talking about it. Chad Morris put out a message. Apparently, former Razorback head coach Chad Morris is stepping away from Texas State. And here's the statement. I love the Club Dub. I love the, what do you call it? The typos, I guess, that are, underlined, like he's doing Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
But he says, it's been an honor to be a part of Texas State University and its football program. I'm extremely grateful to Coach Ken and the AD, President Damphouse, which is great, for allowing me the opportunity to coach, mentor, and put in the lives of many players, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I'm epically grateful to Club Dub. Y'all are always the bright spots of my day. I thank you for all accepting me and showing up with every day with grateful attitude. The world has takers. Always will find a way to be a giver. I look forward to watching your future success on the field. Thanks to our blah, blah, blah. Coaching is a passion that I've enjoyed for 32 years. This next year, Paul and I are going to enjoy watching Chandler play in his final year of college football. I look forward to many more years on the sidelines, but for this upcoming season, I'm going to be joining from the stands. All the best, Chad Morris.
Well, I'm to the point now where, whatever, I wish him well. Enjoy watching your kid play football this next year. But I just want to be on the record here and say that I am epically ungrateful for Club Dub. Yes. I don't know if it's like a thing they did over there, if it's something different than what it was here. I never want to hear about it again. So had he just left it out there, I'd have been like, oh, you know what? Hope it works out for the guy, whatever. No, that just pissed me off.
Not a Club Dub fan. I also love that he's leaning into the bit about him being more focused on his son's games than his own games. He's going full in on it. Because that was the thing. You remember when Arkansas fans were super upset about him flying to Dallas to go see his son play and all that. It's like, is he more focused on his son? Now he's outright admitting, I am more focused on my son than winning, which again, as a father, I'm, you got to respect it. And also part of me does there's a weird, maybe 1% of me that's sentimental where I'm like, that is cool. He's been coaching, he probably hasn't been able to be there for his son as much as he wants, but Chandler's got one more year of college football left. He's going to go watch him play. That's great. What's interesting to me is he said he looks forward to many more years on the sideline. So he's getting right back on the horse after this.
Guess so.
Mm-hmm. He's doing that Urban Meyer thing, take a year off. Focus on
at least he didn't fake a heart attack.
Okay, I needed you to specify what that meant, but yeah,
it could go a lot of different ways. Go a lot of different ways there. But I do like the fact that here's the thing: I'm not trying to hate on anybody specifically, but I am going to hate on a little bit. But it's just man, there's still people like my buddy Devin still gives him crap. He never thanked the fans when he left Arkansas, which it doesn't matter, but it's still kind of funny that he put this out here. But if they ever needed evidence of Chad Morris being the worst coaching hire in SEC history, to see what has happened to him after the fact, it's not he's just a bad head coach but a good assistant. It's no, he's just everywhere he's gone, he's either been fired or left or whatever. And so I know everything's moved on from him and whatnot, but man, that just is just a painful reminder of the colossal epically fail that Chad Morris was when he was here at Arkansas. So
take a year, recharge those batteries, reinvent himself, and good luck. Where's Chandler playing now?
He was at North Texas last year. I don't know if he's still there.
I don't, because he was at SMU right for a bit, and then he was at TCU, or maybe
was he at SMU?
I think he was
maybe it's just TCU
and then North Texas. Okay.
Yeah, he's in North Texas, which is, I remember the North Texas angle. Everyone laughed about it because it's okay, so the team that literally kicked off the epic tragedy of Chad Morris with the fake fair catch play against Arkansas is the one that he ended up going to. And I wonder if anyone ever showed that play. If it's hey, remember when your dad was coach at Arkansas and this happened when we were there? That'd been great. Probably not, but yeah, he was I don't know how was a high 4-star player or whatever, but he was a highly coveted player coming out of high school.
I have breaking news on Chandler Morris. He is playing for Virginia football. this upcoming season. He's got one last ride at Virginia.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, John, him and Criswell, that was a huge controversy back in the day, which is kind of funny that now they're like, neither of their careers have played out the way that people envision. But it was like a huge deal because people were like, Arkansas didn't recruit Criswell enough because of Morris and because they had his son and all that. And so that's kind of what led to Jacoby Criswell being viewed as this prodigy, was because people felt like he got done dirty by not being recruited as heavily by Arkansas. And so
Oh, I don't know if he was ever done dirty, but people like felt that way at the time. I do remember that. Also didn't realize he threw for nearly 4,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 12 picks this past year.
He was one of the, like, PFF, he was like one of their like top 20 quarterbacks in the country, graded wise. And now obviously at North Texas, but so hopefully he balls out at Virginia.
Yeah, hopefully so. And hopefully all the other, this main reason I wanted to keep talking about that is maybe the Big Blue Nation people finally got the point and ended up leaving, because instead of hate raging watching our streams, it's been wild this week. All right, let's go ahead and continue it on and keep it moving. We'll get to your SEC update presented by Rhoback. Just go to rhoback.com, enter in promo code HOGS20. You get 20% off your first purchase. Great apparel, not only for the wintertime, but also for the springtime, which will be here before you know it. They got great Razorback stuff too. And no matter what it is, when you buy it, just use that promo code HOGS20 and you get 20% off your purchase with Rhoback and Rhoback apparel. A few games of note that are going on this weekend, and I just said that, now I'm going to bring them all back. But Kentucky and Alabama play each other tomorrow at 11 a.m. sharp. So they're getting that 11 a.m. kick, on ESPN. And this game's in Lexington. Alabama's coming off of a loss. That was, I know, frustrating for them. But Kentucky, of course, flying high. And, get a good matchup there tomorrow morning. Both teams 14-3, both teams 3-1 in SEC play.
Yeah, that'll be a good game. I mean, it's two brands of basketball that are fun to watch. How many threes are going to be shot in that game?
All of them.
All
the threes.
It's going to be up and down. The Kentucky-Florida game that was 106-100 or whatever, it might surpass that in scoring. Remember last year when Arkansas went over there and it was like an NBA All-Star game with all the scoring. So I don't know. That'll be cool. There's a part of me that hopes Kentucky's still unbeaten at Rupp under Pope when Arkansas heads over there.
Me too.
But I don't really care. It's whatever.
Yeah. It'll be a good game though. If you're just looking forward to good basketball. In fact, it's at 11 a.m. It's just funny to that point, but still, there's another great, at least I want to say great top 25 matchup. Auburn and Georgia. The what is it they say is called in football, the oldest rivalry in the South, or whatever the game is called itself. But that game's at noon on the SEC network. So that game's in Georgia. I know Auburn is a wagon. They've been killing everybody, but at some point in time, I just feel like the Janai Broom deal, and they're going to get caught. I don't think they're going undefeated. It's still going to be the best team in the SEC, no doubt. But I don't know, maybe this weekend against Mike White and his fighting Georgia Bulldogs, maybe it's finally time they slip up a little bit. But
yeah, it's going to be, that's an interesting spot for Auburn there. But man, I can't bring it, I can't bring myself to being like, oh yeah, they're going to get caught here, because I thought it was going to happen with Mississippi State. I know it was at home, but like Mississippi State's a legit top 15-ish type of team. And for Auburn just to handle those dudes without Janai Broom, that was really impressive.
It felt to me, Curtis, like the ultimate, our guys out, we all know we have to step up. I've got to be 5% better. And so it's kind of like, in hindsight, I should have seen that coming a little bit. But now I'm starting to think they got up for that one, kind of knowing, all right, our guys out, we got to step up. With it going so well, I feel like Auburn might be susceptible. I just don't think Georgia is the team to do it. Now they've obviously proved me wrong time and time again. I feel like if this were if this were Ole Miss, I'd be like, they're for sure beating Auburn tomorrow. Or if it were even someone like kind of maybe a little bit more solidified, like maybe even Florida, I'd be like, oh, they're beating Auburn tomorrow. I don't think Georgia's going to be the team that exposes it.
No, I don't think so either. But I just, it's kind of as much of I'm like not going to pick Arkansas to win a game until I'm proven otherwise. I'm also not going to pick against Auburn, until I'm proven otherwise. Like that's how good I think that they are and how they'll continue to be. The other top 25 matchup is, it's a thing of football rivalries, at least. The Egg Bowl is going on this weekend with Mississippi State and Ole Miss. That game's going to be at 5 p.m., same time of Arkansas's, but it's on ESPN2. Game is in Starkville. So Ole Miss, undefeated in the SEC. Them and Auburn are the only teams undefeated. And then you have Mississippi State coming off of a that tough loss to Tennessee where they got smacked, but still going to be a really good game. And if you want to go to this game, it's actually the most expensive SEC game to go to this weekend for tickets. So
Chris Jans ain't losing 3 in a row, boys.
Nah.
No, yeah, it's $120 to get in the door there. It's $110 to go to the Kentucky-Alabama game and $94 to go to Auburn-Georgia. So, but yeah, should be a good Egg Bowl. And you also have the battle of the worst teams in the SEC too, guys. South Carolina and Oklahoma facing off for you degenerates.
Are we sure those are the worst teams in the SEC?
Well, 2 of them.
Seriously.
Two of the worst. Should say 2 of the worst teams in the SEC. But yeah, that game's going to be enormous. You can go to that game for $1, according to the ticket prices.
Wow.
Texas, Florida is also happening, and LSU, Texas A&M is the late game. So Tennessee,
What a
Vanderbilt.
nightcap.
I won't forget that one.
I hate the 5 p.m. tip for Arkansas.
Sucks,
Hate it.
dude.
I know.
Give me noon or 8 p.m. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, just give me one or the other. I would even settle for like 2 or 3, but 5 p.m. is such a weird time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was looking at it too. This is just one of my random things I was bringing up. I know the football side of things, but it's also, these are a lot of the teams that play at the end of the season in football. Like you have the Egg Bowl, you have LSU, Texas A&M, which I know they don't anymore, but they did for a while. Arkansas, Missouri, they played each other. Tennessee, Vanderbilt. So you got a few of the final games of the season in football being played this week in basketball. So got that. And also another positive note. It's not necessarily an SEC update or part of the SEC, but it's a bigger thing. Shout out Dickie V's back, Dick Vitale, which, that dude, as you say, you love him or hate him, because I know some people get tired of him or whatever, but the dude has battled cancer. He has beaten it, and then it comes back all the time, and he continues to beat it and continues to come back. The dude is old, very, very old. And again, I know you can feel a certain way about him, but it's just awesome to see him continually beat this and continue to come back and continue to have his love for basketball. So it's good to have him back, and he'll be back for the first time in nearly 2 years on the Duke. Of course, it has to be Duke. The Duke Wake Forest game happening on Saturday, January 25th. So
yeah, that's really, really cool, man. That's great news. I'm excited for him. I will tune in for that game just to hear him. That's awesome, man. Happy for him.
Dickie V is like synonymous with college basketball. Like, how people always say that thing where they're like, football is better when Nebraska's good or whatever. College basketball is better when Dickie V is involved. Like he just is college basketball, whether you love him or hate him. And I've had plenty of moments on both ends of the spectrum where I've been annoyed by stuff he said. I love stuff he says, but like he just is college basketball. I feel like he's just a part of it. He's like that uncle that like maybe gets on your nerves sometimes, but it's like that's the guy. You got to have him there. So it's good. It's going to be great to hear him back on the call. And I definitely will tune in just to listen to him. Like he's awesome, man. We've all done Dickie V impressions at one point or another. I actually have a buddy who's like my best friend's like a diehard LSU fan, of course. He like hates Dickie V with a passion because Dickie V really ripped on Will Wade and tried to act like that was like the most shameful thing of all time. And so he's like held it against him. Even he's like, can't wait to hear Dickie V. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. What's y'all's favorite Dickie V phrase? Like the one that when you think Dickie V?
Triple S man for sure.
Yeah. Damn it, you beat me to it. Yeah. Super scintillating, sensational, man.
He's
love
a PTPer. He's a primetime performer, a primetime player.
Was it a diaper dandy? Is that what he would call it?
Dandy's pretty
Diaper
good.
Dandy's good. Yeah.
I remember, I forgot which highlight. There was one that I remember on Arkansas highlight. I think it was an Arkansas highlight, but either way, he shows how dated this reference was. But he said, "Somebody call MCI. This guy's hitting long distance." And I'm like, "Oh gosh." Like people probably don't even know what MCI is or anything like that. But
did Dickie V coin nothing but nylon?
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe he was the first. Like he's at least who I learned it from playing the college basketball games as a kid. I was like, nothing but nylon. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's like that. Because that's the thing about basketball, college basketball. You have not only Dickie V, but just those calls. Like think of Rafferty was sending in Jerome and onions double order sautéed. Like they think college basketball with that. You think of just and even something that's not even a call, but just how corny and cheesy the One Shining Moment song is. But yet it's like you got to hear it after every tournament. Those are the things about college basketball you just can't change. You got to keep them there. So, but good to see that. And also in other SEC news, kind of a crazy thing, but you sent this last night to us, Curtis, in the group text. But a Florida basketball assistant coach is facing sexual assault allegations. We know about the Todd Golan thing. And this is actually not only an assistant coach, but a former Gator great, as he was part of that national championship back-to-back year, Torian Green. And ESPN broke the news that yesterday an employee filed a Title IX complaint against Green, and it outlines the complaint. Says the woman, who remained anonymous, reported to the school's Title IX office that the coach arranged a meeting with her in the athletic facilities where he kissed her and tried to put his hand down her pants. According to a copy, says she pulled away and said no. He tried again, at which point she got away. According to the complaint, until that day, she had never been alone with Green and only exchanged casual greetings with him on campus and everything. So again, all allegations. I want to make that clear, but still another thing to add to the thing going on with Florida and the Todd Golden stalking allegations too, dealing with Title IX. So
was that uncovered as part of the Title IX investigation that they're doing because of Golden? Like, I think
might be.
I think so. That's just, like you said, it's all alleged, and all for the innocent until proven guilty thing. But man, it's like one thing after another over there in the midst of what's, this is probably their best season since the back-to-backs, right? I mean, the team is really, really good, but it's a cloud hanging over them there. And we really hadn't heard much about it. And now this comes out. So we'll see. It's going to be fascinating to see what the future holds for Todd Golden, because he's such a young, up and coming coach. Like, he's kind of, on that track to be one of the next big names in the sport. And we don't even know if that's going to be a thing, moving forward, depending on how this all plays out. So crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. Speaking of Mike White, it was like, I remember at the time thinking Mike White was going to be that next big name. Like, I remember thinking he was going to be the heir. I thought he was going to end up getting the Duke job. Like, I really thought, I was like, that's what's going to happen to him. He's going to be this awesome up and coming star at Florida. And I didn't think that when they hired Golden, but you're right. He did kind of have that vibe about him where it was like, especially now that the season they're having, where you're like, holy cow, like this, they might have actually landed on the right guy here. It's a weird situation. And I mean, again, of course, all allegedly, but allegedly some weird stuff going on, and definitely is like a dark cloud over what's even still going to shape up. Like, it's not like their season's going to go down the drain here. I wouldn't imagine. It's going to be kind of like Bama last year, where you just have this awkward thing hanging over you. Obviously a very, very different situation. But we're kind of accustomed to this in college basketball, just weird stories that hang over these top programs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, these investigations, I could go on and on about stuff with dealing with Title IX, but this is the things that's always been a very big criticism of me with the Title IX situations is you have investigations, but you don't have, like, in cases, the actual people like the police or anybody investigating these things, which can be charged with crimes. And that's where a lot of these cases kind of get lost a little bit. And even if they're true or not, just because of the disconnect, but either way, I'll be here to see how long this takes and if it ever comes out.
Speaking of Title IX, are you guys read up on that legislation that came through yesterday?
Yeah, is it coming to an end?
Revenue, how it's going to impact the revenue sharing and everything? Did you guys read up on that?
A little bit.
Yeah, so I guess they're changing up the name. Like, with this revenue sharing stuff that's coming out, those payments are going to be called like additional financial aid or whatever. What it means is, like, falls under the purview of Title IX. So all these schools that are like, we're going to be giving 80% of this money to the football program. Well, now you can't do that. And so it's like changing up a lot of the plans that all these schools had in place for really loading up on football, especially, but then also men's basketball. It's got to fall under the equitable stuff there, which is going to be really interesting. But at the same time, it's all speculative right now, I guess, because a new administration is coming into office. When is that? Monday, the inauguration or whatever. And then all that stuff can kind of change if it needs to. So it's what I'm saying is it's very much up in the air. So for Arkansas, maybe, who they're like, oh yeah, revenue sharing, whatever. And they've been doing a lot of their things in terms of, probably making promises of, hey, when this comes down, you're going to be getting this much, that much. Well, maybe you aren't, is kind of the deal there. So it's going to be weird. And it also makes collectives a thing moving forward for sure.
Here's my question. What's stopping a lot of these programs from just saying, you know what? We don't need women's tennis. We don't need women's volleyball.
It's exactly what's going to happen.
All of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I'll split it amongst I'll split it evenly, but I'm just going to, hell, more than half these programs don't make any money.
I'll tell you what's stopping them from doing that. Title IX.
Yeah.
Because if you drop a women's sport, you have to drop a men's sport. Like, you have to stay within that equitable range there. So what it might mean is, like, those non-revenue sports, men's and women's,
golf, out of here. Tennis, out of here.
Yep.
It's crazy, man.
And that was the whole, like, thing. And I remember talking about it on my radio show a year or so ago when this was coming out. I'm like, people are all about the pay for play and everything, and I get it, like whatever. But I was like, Title IX is going to play a factor into this because that's the whole reason why the 11.7 scholarships in baseball, for instance, and connected with the softball. It's like that's what made it so tough to kind of move forward with that. And the type of programs that you have, you're like, hey, you want fairness and all that, but at the end of the day, it's a business. So if this starts happening, schools are going to be like, okay, well, the swim team, you're gone. Like they're just going to start picking them off. And then suddenly all those scholarships that kids were able to get, to get to school and to get an education, they're going to be gone. And so again, I understand that can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, but this is, unless it gets overturned when Trump comes in its office or however it's going to work, it could have some pretty big impact. But yeah, I did see that, Curtis. And those are things people don't really think about, at the end of the day.
If they couldn't save TikTok, how are they going to save revenue sharing?
Exactly.
It's true. I still think TikTok will stay. I think someone's going to buy it. Elon's going to come in, swoop in, buy it, make it, and then everybody will going to be mad at him again, but then they'll still at least have their.
But is it even for sale? Like, I know that's the way out of it, is if somebody buys it, but I don't know that whoever the Chinese owners are, like, I don't think they're actually trying to sell it. I don't know.
I don't know either.
What's going on?
I don't know. I just see like people just be like, well, if I'm going to be leaving TikTok, this is my last TikTok and everything. I was like, I don't know.
There's apparently a newer app that's very similar, but it's all in Mandarin or something right now that people are downloading. It's called like Red something or the other.
Yeah, Hillary on top of that.
Yeah. What's the app called that was supposed to be the counter to Twitter that somebody created?
Threads.
All these sports media people were joining it.
Blue Sky.
Is that what it is?
Blue Sky is the thing now. Before, Instagram was doing Threads, like when we thought that Twitter was going to go under or whatever.
Yeah. I knew Threads, but for some reason, I thought like when I see these sports writers like Dan Wolken be like, well, since there's a lot of people going to be leaving this app, I'm going to be follow me over on Blue Sky or whatever it is.
I take a lot of pride in never doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, speaking of this should be a Remember Wednesday, but do you guys remember fleets when Twitter tried to make fleets a thing?
Yes,
fleets.
Yeah,
they
were
like
the
a story. It was
version.
like stories basically, but it was like a little fleet.
Yeah. Instead of a tweet, they could have stories at the top of Twitter that people could just put instead of a tweet.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. I remember that.
That did not last very long. that was pretty tough. So, all right. Also a few other things too. And, we'll get to hear from Bobby Bones here in just a little bit as well. We'll talk about in our Bet Saracen segment. Looking forward to the weekend here. Be sure to download the Bet Saracen app, #1 sports betting app in the state of Arkansas for all the games. You got the College Football National Championship happening on Monday. You got NFL playoffs happening this weekend. Got some good stuff there. So I did want to bring it up with you guys. I know we watch all different sports, but for the NFL playoffs, any rooting interest, anything there for you guys this weekend?
Yes. I know
you do, Andrew.
I've got Texans money line. What do you mean?
Yeah.
As you should. I think too many people are kind of like giving the Texans a chance to where I'm like, I no longer think they're going to win. I'm excited for that game, but I'm not like super optimistic. But I will say, I've said it all year that I don't think this is like a typical like peak Chiefs team. I definitely don't think they're going to blow. Like they're not going to. I mean, they could blow the Texans out by simply just holding them to 3 points, which very well could happen. Texans offensive line absolutely stinks. But I don't think like the Chiefs are not going to score like 40 or anything like that. I don't think they have that firepower this year. Their receiving core is not that great. But I do think they're probably going to just slug it out 20-10, kind of just beat them up. I desperately need Lamar Jackson to win on Sunday. Just for the good of humanity, just for the good of him as well. It's one of those games, by the way, the ESPN FPI, you know what they have for that Bills-Ravens game? 50.0% on both sides.
Wow.
You don't see that too often.
No. See, that's the thing is like, I used to actually like the Chiefs. Now I hate the Chiefs just because it has nothing to do with them. Like it has nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes or anything. It's just the Taylor Swift stuff and the talk and the praise. I just get tired of it. And I think the NFL rigs it for them at times. So I am rooting for the Texans in a weird way. I'll do that. The really tough one I have is the Lions and Commanders because both pro franchises have been pretty terrible for like my entire life, and both of them are playing each other. It's like that one's, I don't know. I'd like to see either one of them win, probably more so the Lions for the Razorback angle. You know, got a few Hogs on there.
Yeah.
But 9.5 points, though.
Dude,
Detroit's
I saw
favorite.
like 92% of the public money is on Detroit. Like everybody is betting on Detroit. And obviously, I mean, Detroit's a wagon. They've been maybe the best team in the NFL this year. I think if, you know, from the like tortured fan bases thing, like that's a good point. Detroit really needs to win this game. Like it would be pretty much a disaster if they lost this game in arguably the best season in franchise history. Like that would be a gut punch that would ruin the city. Washington is playing with house money. I mean, you know, a rookie quarterback, or, you know, early years, I think it's, I can't remember if their first or second year under Dan Quinn. But it's like, you know, they're ahead of schedule. So like they could afford to lose this game. This is a natural stepping off point. Detroit better win that game.
Mm-hmm. And also, it's the most expensive game to go to. I don't know if anyone cares about ticket price, but I just think it's fascinating. $350 to get in the door for the Detroit Lions game. But if you want to go to the Chiefs game, it's only $93. It's the cheapest playoff ticket you can get is the Chiefs and Texans game. Because then on Sunday you got the Rams and Eagles, two teams that have recently won Super Bowls here. But that's games in Philly, 6.5-point favorites going to Bet Saracen for the Eagles, and then you mentioned Bills and Ravens. 1.5-point favorites for the Ravens on the road in Buffalo, according to Bet Saracen. So
Nice.
Man, I can't wait. Should be good though. Should be good playoffs.
Curtis, did you see any of the news that just broke, by the way?
As I was uploading the press conference before I jumped on here, I was seeing that, and I'm not saying it's ruining what I was really, really looking forward to with our plans tomorrow night, but it's put a big damper on them.
John, to fill you in,
Okay.
the main event for tomorrow's UFC pay-per-view, the challenger that was going to challenge Islam Makhachev's belt has pulled out because he injured his back while cutting weight.
Huh.
Lights got too bright, and he got a little panicky and decided to pull out. Shameful, honestly. It really is shameful. I hope the UFC buries him on the prelims of his next fight.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, man. Is he gonna is Moicano stepping in? Is that
I
what they're gonna?
think it's borderline official from what I could tell.
At least Islam gets to fight, but
Right.
it's just that's huge downer, man. At least it's a pretty deep card in terms of entertainment value, but man.
Well, my addition to that conversation is if Mike Tyson could do it with a broken back and he can fight, then this guy should be able to fight too. Just saying.
I mean, but like seriously though, like when you're the main event and the like show's already booked, it's tomorrow. I feel like, and there's a lot of, I mean, every fighter goes into fights with injuries. So like, I'm not doubting he has an injury. I'm sure he does, but it's like, I think you just have to go in there and know you're getting your ass whooped. Even tell the UFC, be like, hey, I hurt my back, but I'm staying in here because I want to save the show. I'm going to give it my all. But, you know, I don't know how you can do that. The UFC is not going to like that. I know that his back, I'm sure his back injury is real. The UFC is like, when they're giving you a young guy an opportunity on the biggest stage against the pound for pound best in the world, you got to show up, man. You cannot pull out of that sucker. And
he's already lost to him once. I know it was a while back, but it's like, it took you a while to get back to the point where you could have this rematch even. And now, tanking the main event of a pay-per-view, that's brutal, man.
Well, also somebody in the chat asked about the Arkansas Missouri line on Bet Saracen. It hasn't come out yet because usually they wait a bit, but the money line is if you feel like the Razorbacks are going to win, you're at plus 110 for the money line for Arkansas, but minus 155 for Missouri. So that's what they got now on Bet Saracen. So yeah.
Take Arkansas money line.
I'm hoping.
What else?
You guys know my rule with Missouri.
Yeah.
Never pick them to lose to Missouri in basketball, and never pick them to beat Missouri in football. It's worked out more often than not.
But we put ourselves in a box here because just the other day we said we're not going to pick Arkansas to win a basketball game until they beat someone.
Mizzou's the exception.
I agree. It's like, who cares?
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't realize this too, that since that overtime game when they were number 10 in Columbia, since that point in time, Arkansas has only lost to them once in that stretch. And the one time they lost was in 2023 when they lost on the road. That one you referenced, Curtis, where Muss was pissed because Missouri got like 40 free throws and Arkansas got 10 or whatever it was.
Well,
that was a game where I remember thinking there's no path back for Arkansas. This team is not making the NCAA tournament. When they lost that road game in Como.
Get ready for that free throw disparity again, because Missouri like leads the country in free throw attempts per game. Or actually, Kenny Payne said they led the country. I think they're third, but still, they're shooting like 29 free throws per game. Arkansas has got to that number like twice all year. And you know how they are. So I could see this being a Missouri shoots 35 free throws and Arkansas shoots, 15 or something, and people being freaked out about it. But it just kind of is the way it is with the way these teams play.
Mhm.
And then as he pointed out as well, Missouri's making about 10 threes per game in SEC play. So if you make 10 threes and you get to the free throw line 30 times in your home building, that probably doesn't bode well for Arkansas. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, also in that game, just again, referencing it again, Arkansas shot 46% from the field, 42% from three, and 89% from the free throw line, and lost by 3. And they shot 23 of 26 from the free throw line. Missouri was 30 of 40. But what got them was the fact that they had 21 turnovers in that game.
Yeah.
So that'll do it. But yeah,
That will do it.
Yeah.
Dude, that team loved turning the ball over. They used to do that a lot where like they would be in like 3-point games and there'd be like a 12 turnover disparity. You're like, how the hell did you even compete in this game?
Yeah, that was amazing. Also, again, just a few more things before we get to Bobby Bones. Is the Trevin Brazil, Missouri thing still a thing? Like, do you think? I think that are they still going to boo him? Still going to throw things at him and all that? Like,
yeah, I mean, they probably will a little bit, but it'll be scattered. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Did he play? He played against them the second time or no?
I think
Last
he did.
year, Trevin, because
He
it
played
was
like 2 minutes or something like that. I was actually looking at that box score. I don't think he recorded his stat, but he definitely went in the game. It was like one of his first games back from injury. And then he like maybe played a little bit, but didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll boo him or whatever, but I don't think it's going to be like super volatile like it would have been last year or the year before.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
he only
looking
played 4 minutes, and that you're right, Andrew. He barely played in that game against them last year.
And you're talking about the one that was on the road in Columbia, or just in general?
I don't think he even played at Columbia. Actually.
Okay, about to say that was one I was looking at. I didn't see him playing.
Oh
Columbia,
no, he didn't play at Columbia. I don't think
so. This will be his first time actually playing in Columbia, because I think the year before that, of course, he was hurt, and the year before that, he was hurt, and so yeah, and he'll have some history made there too. But we'll see. A few other things of note before we hear from Bobby Bones. This is I wish I could play the clip. But did you guys see the clip of it was Maine versus NJIT? Which shout out to NJIT for the baseball, the unofficial adopted team of the Razorbacks, because they came here for baseball and were really fun. Well, anyways, Maine and NJIT playing each other, and the player for Maine, his name's AJ Lopez. He hit a 3 to end the game. Like it was to put him up by 13. This ended it. There's a dagger. The funniest thing about it though was he shushed the crowd. He went over and shushed the crowd and everybody. Well, the crowd, it was actually like elementary school day, and it was literally nothing but 8-year-olds in the crowd. And everyone was, and the commentary was just cracking up. They're like, this guy, it's a dagger 3, and he goes to these like 8-year-olds and he's like shushing them in the crowd. And like,
they call that the Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook did that in the bubble when the NBA was playing in Orlando, and it was like friends and family only, like immediate family of the. So it's like all like LeBron's children and like all these other kids, and he's like, shushing them and F y'all talking about, what are y'all talking? And it's like, dude, there's nobody here.
I love that. Like, it's just so funny to see, and knowing that it's just a bunch of children. Like, if they even saw it, did they even care? Like, did they have any sort of reaction whatsoever? Yeah, that was good. But also, too, did you guys see the Omaha basketball coach and what he was doing in a post game celebration? Again, I wish I could play the video, but I don't want to risk it. He takes the trash can in the visiting opponent's locker room, puts it in the middle of the locker room, takes his belt off, and they just start beating the trash can with a belt. That was the celebration. So, whatever it takes, I guess.
That's unique.
It's one of those things. Apparently they do it all the time, but it's just one of those things where it's like it just does it once maybe, and it becomes a thing, and no one knows why. But yeah, beating a trash can with a belt to celebrate a big victory. That's the way to go with it. So,
booty.
And all right. So finally, I don't know if there's any chats that are worth getting into. A lot of it was just Kentucky fans getting all pissed off about stuff and talking noise. Oh yeah, how about this from Chris? He says, "Hey Curtis, do you know anyone else that the Razorbacks might be looking at since they didn't land that guy yesterday?"
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys that they're still connected to here. Nate Ament would be one. I mean, he's like a top 5 prospect in the class, really good. 6'9", kind of a jumbo wing type of guy, but he's far off. He just released a top 11, and he's a senior, and it's January. So he's going to be a late period guy. I think Arkansas is probably in the upper half of that top 11 in terms of contenders, but they haven't got him on campus for a visit yet. I think that's probably the next step there. They've gone out to visit him. Cal has flown out to see him a number of times. So you see that, but there's quite a few schools, Duke included, that are really in there high on him. And then the only other one would probably be a reclass from 2026, Mika Murinen, big, I say big, very tall Euro post player from Finland that they like a lot. He's already visited. There's been some talk he might reclass. I don't know. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they're just done with the high school guys, but those would be two maybe to at least keep tabs on.
Also, this comes from Zach Drummond. He says, what's the best outcome you guys could see for this season? I guess talking about Razorback basketball, but
I mean, I think doing enough to get into the tournament and just being to the point where they're playing up to their potential once they get there. Right. I mean, best case scenario for me at this point is them getting there and, and maybe winning a couple games. Like, I don't think anybody can really seriously look at this team at this point and say, oh yeah, like even if they figure it out, they can make a run, do a Final Four. I'm not seeing all that. Get there, win a game, and cut your losses and try to do better next year.
Yeah, I mean, the caveat is the NCAA tournament, single elimination. It's completely unpredictable. Anything can happen, blah, blah, blah. I am setting the bar at one NCAA tournament win. I think like you could sneak into the tournament as a 10 or 11, maybe win an 11-6 game, and then lose to a 3 seed. That would be best case scenario in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I just think getting to the tournament at this point would just be a nice, great, best thing you could have. It's going to be tough, and you're already behind the 8 ball. But yeah, to me, that would be the best. And finally, Ryan just says, let's answer the real question here. Did Andrew watch Major League or Varsity Blues?
I watched neither. What I ended up watching was Surviving Barstool. Are y'all familiar with that?
Yeah.
I watched the finale of that. I got way more invested than I thought I was. It was like a 2.5 hour finale, which I didn't expect. But like once I started, I was like, I'm not gonna stop. But that show was highly entertaining.
Yeah, no, it is. Say what you want about it, but yeah, I know a lot of people that watch it and a lot of people love it and they're all about it. So, but
did either of y'all ever watch Survivor? Like the actual show Survivor?
Way back when. My buddy Devin watches it religiously still to this day.
Just like I'd say probably 2 or 3 seasons I was really engaged in it, and then
yeah, I never consumed it at all. The first time I ever like really was even, I mean, I knew what Survivor was, but I remember when they did Surviving Barstool season 1, and it was a much smaller operation, like 8 people or something like that. This year they had 24 like Barstool employees. I mean, like big names like Will Compton, the Pink Whitney guy, what's his name? Ryan Whitney, Dave Portnoy was in it, Big Cat. Like they had big names. And it was for $250,000, and like the challenges were pretty intricate. Like it was a big thing, and it got very heated, like to the point where Dave Portnoy's like, do I get them to vote out Rhea because she's the Chicks in the Office and that's one of our best podcasts, like that's one of our highest performing podcasts. He's like sitting there making decisions like that. It was very good.
I like that.
Well, either way, folks, we know that we, of course, have talked a lot today, but we also had a chance to catch up with our guy, Bobby Bones, who's a friend of the show. And I know a lot of people know him from not only his content that he puts out, but as a Razorback fan. And he's been going through it a little bit, but he wanted to offer some positivity and also talk about some of the real things that Razorback fans are facing. So let's go ahead and hear from our very good friend here on Inside Arkansas Live. It's, of course, Bobby Bones. Well, Razorback fans, we know that there's a lot of things going on in Razorback land, a lot of opinions being thrown around, and a lot of you fans feel a certain way about Razorback basketball, baseball, football, just the overall athletic department. And you're not just the only one. There's a lot of other fans that feel that way too. And it's been a while since we have a chance to talk to him. So let's go ahead and welcome into the show our very good friend here on Inside Arkansas Live, of course, is Bobby Bones. You can follow him on social media at Mr. Bobby Bones, host of the Bobby Bones Show, as well as just an inordinate amount of other things. But Bobby, it's always good to talk with you, man. How you doing? How you feeling? You look great. You look truly great.
Thank you. I'm in that stage now where I'm trying not to get too close to the basketball team because I don't want to get hurt. Like I want to be, and I watch every game, but I guess individually, like I'm not bonding with the baby yet, and I don't have any kids yet, and I'm like, when we finally do have kids, am I going to be able to bond with the baby? I have parent issues where they weren't always around, but it's like I'm trying not to bond with the baby because I don't know if this baby's going to be any good. I hope so. The baby has a lot of potential, like high hopes. Like we spent a lot of money for this baby, so I watch every game, and it's hard because, like in my life, the one thing that's been there, I've said this is Razorback sports, and I think people that are watching this or listening to this would feel the same way, right? Like when you grow up in Arkansas, it's what you have, and you run to it or run from it. And I'm just so confused. Like my expectations were definitely higher, but growing up as we have, I've been burnt so many times that's also expected. So I don't know what to feel, man. I'm confused. I'm lost right now, John.
I feel the same way, and I don't know if you'll understand this reference because I'm going to sound really nerdy in saying it, but I said it the other day. I feel like Razorback sports right now is like Disney Star Wars, where it's like it's so great and it was so great and you were so excited about it, but then you start seeing it in person. You're like, I don't know what this is really. I don't feel like it's the same. It's there. It's dressed in all of it. They're dressed as Razorbacks. It's the logo, but it just doesn't feel that way. And I know that football has been well and over, but basketball has been obviously the hot topic of discussion. You're a guy who's gone to basketball games. We've talked at NCAA tournaments. Just in your thoughts, what's going on with the team? And just your thoughts, what's the problem here, and why can't this team figure it out and starting 0-4 in SEC play? That's not Razorback basketball, the one that we know and love at least.
I have no idea. Like I don't know, and I've given up on trying to figure it out. I'm not the guy to figure it out. I'd like to see us win. We finally get something really cool and pretty, and that's Coach Cal. That's pretty exciting. And I definitely don't blame anything specific. But the thing for me that I think that is most bothersome is I was really getting angry at all those Kentucky fans. I was really, really getting angry. They'd be tweeting, they were sending me comments. And I don't want them to be right. I really don't want them to be right. And more than that, I want to win. So I still have faith. If it's not this year, maybe it's next. I don't want Kentucky fans to be right. I think too, the easy answer would be, well, these are a lot of great players that had high expectations individually. Therefore, they haven't been able to really mesh as a unit. Whatever that tired narrative is, it's tired because a lot of times it's true. And maybe that's it. But we had years with Muss where we didn't play good at all conference to start the conference. It's not like that was 20 years ago where we'd have really bad 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 conference games as it started. And we're like, it's over, it's sunk. And then as Muss would do, we would fight back and we'd make a run. So basketball is different than football in that I think we still have a puncher's chance. Now we got to start punching quick. So we got to punch quick, or we got to get to the SEC tournament and punch quick and hard and somehow, make our way that way. The SEC is also really, really difficult, right? You have 9, 10 teams that get in the tournament. So with basketball, there is still hope. The expectations are not being met yet, but it's not like Cal's not a good coach all of a sudden. It's not like these players all of a sudden suck. When that switch clicks or hits or flips, whatever the term is, it's going to be great. You just hope it's not too late. But I love the Hogs, and man, I love them too much. Man, it bums me out. I don't ever feel rage. Like I go to my therapist and the discussion is often, I don't have a lot of emotions or act with emotion low or high. I don't get super excited about stuff because that often leads to disappointment. This is in my head. And I don't get that sad about stuff because I've had crappy stuff happen and I've been able to bounce back and get through it pretty good. So I kind of maintain, my culture has been, I'm just always steady. I don't really see rage. The only time I see rage is when we lose, like literally is when we lose a close game that we should have won in football or basketball. That's when I can actually relate to people that have whatever these rage fits are. I am rooting for a bounce back. I have faith. With football, it got ugly pretty quick. At that Oklahoma State game, we kind of knew this is not going to be what we thought it was, or hoped it would be, because Oklahoma State ended up sucking. They were a sucky team, and we got beat. That's an ugly game. Basketball, we have a shot. So that's what my mind is. I'm still remaining 51% optimistic.
Listen, that's more than most at this point in time. And, you mentioned football, Bobby. I think that's what makes this so much worse, is that it wasn't like, okay, football went great and then basketball suffering, but you still feel good about football. I feel like for Arkansas, just in the major sports at least, football was bad last year at 4-8. Now they're 7-6, but it's not exactly inspiring hope. You lose everybody in the portal. Basketball, we know the final year with Muss was not great. He leaves. You're excited about Cal, and it's not going well. Even baseball, it's been great regular season, but early exits in the NCAA tournament and losing in the regionals in your home stadium. Razorback fans are just kind of feeling like, what happened to that just a few years ago in 2021, 2022, where you went 9-4 and won the Outback Bowl, where you went to the Elite Eight and where you went to the World Series? It feels like that's eons ago. And now you feel like you're the bottom dweller of the SEC in most of the sports. And it just seems like it went so bad so quickly all of a sudden.
Yeah, we feel beat up. And the last thing I want to do is come on and be like, this sucks. But it's been a rough sports year. Now, granted, the year's separated by 2 years because of how it falls on the calendar. But yeah, it sucks, man. It does. And who it sucks for too, obviously, the players don't like to lose, coaches don't like to lose. But it sucks for people, just like you, because it's not like people are wanting to chase media of losing teams. You know, if we're not winning, and it's not just you, it could be any Razorback property. I know for me, if we're losing a bunch, I'm not chasing down a podcast to listen to us talk about losing. So no. that sucks. Bar and restaurant, I mean, it's just so important in Arkansas. It's frustrating. Life's going good, except for that part right now. But, you know, we're Arkansas, and we'll bounce back and win multiple championships like we always do. Right?
Yeah, like just having to scream it behind a mask and having the Kentucky fans, as you mentioned, that sucks. They've been horrible to me. And I'm not complaining because sometimes I like to mix it up with them. But I think the thing that sucks the most is I just don't have a weapon. I'm going in with my bare hands. I don't have anything to be like, well, you know, football or baseball or anything like that. And that's where Razorback fans are just feeling beaten down. And so I use the word disconnected because I know on social media at the end of the football season, Bobby, me and you discussed it, and I had some tweets and you had some tweets about things. It just kind of seems like there's just some disconnect, some tension, some awkwardness among fans and the administration and the U of A and everything. I don't know if that's exactly how you feel, but where you just feel like the state of the fans in the relationship that they have with the athletic department from what you've seen and what you've endured and being a fan yourself.
Apathy. It's just not.
Yeah.
It gets to a point where you don't want to suffer anymore, so you just don't care as much. I wish I had apathy. I suffer. I've not seen a disconnected season in a decade, more than a decade, as much as this year with football. Even when we were losing, even when like Petrino goes out and all of that transition happens, even when we lost a lot of games, people cared because we were coming off wins. We were going to be looking for a new coach. Like there was still that, even though we were losing, but from a national perspective, I do a couple decently sized sports podcasts, and I talk to a lot of the national talking head figures on ESPN or the sports writers, and Arkansas's not even in their thoughts. I mean, it's what sucks. I wish it was in their thoughts that they're like, we can't believe you guys aren't good, but we're not even a consideration. So, and that hurts my feelings because I'm so like bonded to this stuff, and I spend a bunch of money like trying to help the stuff. But again, I have to remind myself that life is more than Razorback. I have to remind myself that it's more than Razorback sports. It's really not, because I love it so freaking much. But yeah, man, it's hard. It's hard. I don't chase down losses. I'll watch them, but again, I don't like pursue, and I'll avoid that. If they're showing scores and they're showing the top 25 and we lost to a top 25 team, I know it's going to pop up. I'll turn it off because I don't want to see that come across the screen where we lost again. But anyway, we're children, John. We're children. We take this too seriously, but we are who we are, and the people watching and listening do too. And we have that, and we are Arkansas born and bred, and we're going to go down with the boat, or one day the boat is going to rise. But it's weird to not have a single winner in football or basketball. We could go baseball, but we haven't won a championship, but we, consistently, Coach Van Horn puts out a great product and a great team. But a lot of people around the country don't care about baseball. That's not even really a rebuttal, because to baseball fans, college baseball fans like us, and who will watch it on like ESPN Plus, we're watching most games, like it is a big deal, but baseball nationally is not one of the big sports. That's why we have to watch it on ESPN Plus. So I can't even talk crap about baseball. I'm really rooting for softball. My brother-in-law is one of the coaches. I love Coach Deifel. I'm really rooting for softball this year. So, we're trying to get something here, but the sun will come up tomorrow. My head football coach in high school, and again, it's not like I was any good to play college, but man, he would always remind us, it does not matter what happens. If you're alive, the sun comes up tomorrow. You can either have a good attitude with it or you can have a bad attitude with it, but it's coming up with or without you. So that's how I feel about Arkansas sports. One day we're going to win again. Yes, but it's been very disconnected from football. Now, hopefully it doesn't happen like that with basketball. I did run into Muss, which is hilarious, accidentally. It was like running into an ex that you never really wanted to break up with, but then you realize, well, since it's sixth grade and she has to move to another town anyway, you have to break up because you don't have your car and you can't see each other. It was kind of one of those things. I was at the San Diego, LA Chargers. I was at their facility. We were shooting a show, recording a podcast, and we're literally just walking through the hallway of the facility. We had been in the locker room and been talking to some of the players. And Eddie, my best friend, and he does the show with me, he was like, hey, I think that's Muss. Because Muss was just standing by himself in the hallway. It was maybe him and somebody else. And obviously Muss lives in Southern California now. And I was like, what? And I look over, and it was his back, and it was Coach. And I went up and I was like, hey, Coach. And so it sounds like we got a room, but we got a room and went and talked for like half an hour. It was awesome to see him. Like, I love that dude. Listen, I understand his intensity at times could have been tough for those working with or under him, but you don't get to that place without it. And we had a lot of good years with Coach Muss, and that was the only place that I feel like I could have been happy with him going, because I have no ill feelings. Also, in real world, I don't have ill feelings about anybody making any business decision. I have to make very tough decisions all the time. But like, in the child, I love Arkansas more than anything person. If somebody leaves us, I'm gonna be kind of pissed. But Muss going to USC, I was like, no, I get it. I mean, that's the one place he can go where I'm not gonna have my feelings hurt. But I love the dude. He loved Arkansas, like, no doubt about it. He was like, man, what a great bunch of years. He's like, I just got to come home though. So, good Muss years, at times great Muss years. That was fun. That was fun as crap sometimes. And so hopefully we'll have some of those with Coach Cal as well. And hopefully, what's interesting too is the money now with the revenue sharing, and Arkansas is going to have about $20 million, but everybody's going to have about $20 million. And then still you'll have the NIL on top of that. So there is more money, but everybody has more money. So it kind of puts you in a place where if you can budget well and have some extra, like again, you have a puncher's chance, but it's, what's the long-term future of the football program? Like, that's often, what I ask, like, is this going to be what we are in 3 years? Because if it doesn't implode, it just stays mediocre. I really can't see us right now with consider everything we have now, winning 9 or 10 games. And that sucks. I've never in my life thought that, because I am rosy red glasses. Like, I find a way to think we're going to win 9 or 10 games. Right now, I don't see that, and I've never rooted for me to be wrong more in my entire life.
Yeah, I'm really hoping you're wrong too, but I also feel the same way that you do, where I even talked about this the other day on the show, where I was a member as a Razorback fan growing up, and even in the basketball side of things too, with Bud Walton, like, I didn't care who you were playing. I felt going into it was like, hey, well, it's in Bud Walton. There's a chance you win. And that's kind of gone a little bit. And same thing with football, where I feel like forever, it's like, hey, this team can win 9, 10 games. It could happen, but it just hasn't happened. And I think what makes it exponentially worse, Bobby, is seeing other SEC teams.
Sucks. Makes it worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Just seeing, Ole Miss be successful in football like they are, or a Missouri or whoever, where, hey, if you're Georgia, if you're LSU, if you're Bama, Texas, whatever, it's like, yeah, you don't like it, but you get it. But these other programs, you feel like you're on the same playing field, and they've really passed you a little bit. And that, I think, is what makes everything worse for Razorback fans now, is not only are they struggling at times, but to see other SEC programs like those programs have more success than you, it really is frustrating, because I feel like this would be your opportunity with NIL, with transfer portal, with everything, to really make a splash and to really do some stuff, and you just haven't yet. You just really haven't.
You know what I think we should do? Because this feels like a funeral. And I don't want it to feel like a funeral, because I rarely just get to talk pure Arkansas. I definitely litter my programs with enough Arkansas propaganda. I think we should share a couple of favorite Arkansas moments we were at. You know, let's just do our top 2 or 3 of all time that we were at with our own feet and knees and eyeballs. And I'll go with a very recent memory. I'll go basketball first. I was in Iowa. It was a snowy, icy day. It was cold as crap. And we land in Iowa for the NCAA tournament. And I remember we were trying to park, and there was nowhere to park. It was so cold. It was like 18 degrees, and it like sleeted the night before. And so we pull into this parking lot. Again, there's nowhere to park. And so we pull in this parking lot, and I'm going to name drop because the story needs the names. And I always like when people name drop when I'm interviewing, so I don't even think it's a big deal. I think it's fun for interview sake. And so in the car, it was me, the singer Brett Eldridge, who's one of my best friends, the Australian country singer Morgan Evans, and Eddie, my best friend. It's the 4 of us, and we had flown up to go to the game, and then we were going to go to the game. We had played Illinois too, and Brett had gone up with me to that game, and Brett is an Illinois fan and went to Illinois. So we get up, we pull into, and the girl that's working the parking lot, I say, hey, do you have any spots? I will pay you triple amount, because it said like private parking. Whatever. We were cold. We're all pansies. And she was like, we have no spots. And I'm like, all right, screw it. We have Brett Eldridge in the car, and he's a big star, and we really don't want him to get attacked by and Brett's like, oh God, don't do that. You're embarrassing me. But I'm doing it for a parking spot, right? And she's like, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, what about Morgan Evans? Australian, he's got like 2 or 3 number 1 songs, because I don't know who that is. And she didn't know who I was. And I go, what about producer Eddie? She goes, producer Eddie's in the car? Oh, you guys can park it. And we're like, what in the world just happened? And not only does that happen, we then go in and beat Kansas, and Muss takes his shirt off in one of the most thrilling NCAA, I think it got us to the Sweet 16, right? Is that, if I'm correct? It was, we were playing Grady Dick. It was awesome. Like, the place went berserk. Like, that to me, like, I hold that in my heart ball, because that encapsulates like what it was like to be a Razorback fan with you're like hugging other Razorback fans. We're probably cousins anyway, because we're all from Arkansas, but we're like hugging each other. We never met. Dude, it was awesome. Like, I'm going to go, we can do 2 each. That'll be fun. I'm going to go at number 2. That's that moment for me. You go now.
All right. Well, I'll just a real quick to that moment. I was also there too, and that was an incredible time in seeing that, because the team had not been that great all year. I mean, they've had some ups and downs, and for them to get that win, and knowing that I get to go to Vegas the next week, going from Des Moines to Vegas,
we went to Vegas and lost. That sucked. I forgot I went to Vegas.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have brought that up, because
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, because we went. UConn ran us. They stomped. Oh no, I went to that game too. I forgot about it. All right, you're up.
Yeah. Positive though, positivity. I will say that a positive memory. Still going with the NCAA tournament. We'll stick with basketball. As I never got to really cover an NCAA tournament or even go to an NCAA tournament. The very first one I got to go to was in Indianapolis, when it was the COVID bubble, if you would, for Razorback basketball, and they. Of course, Arkansas was a good team, and they were an overall 3 seed, I believe. And they played Colgate in the first game. It was a little weird, but Arkansas ended up blowing them out and doing really well. Well, then the next game they play in Hinkle, right up there, which is historic, where basketball plays. And they were playing against Texas Tech and Chris Beard, who was there. Texas Tech, Chris Beard had just recently played in a national championship. It was intense, because I had never, Bobby. It's been a long time since Arkansas had made the Sweet 16, and I had not seen them. It's 96. I mean, I was older, but not old enough to remember. And so that was what was on the line. Every other SEC team had made it to the Sweet 16, except Arkansas since that point. And I was like, well, maybe this is it. And the game was incredible. It was back and forth. And I remember, because we all had to have our mask on. And I tell this story a lot, but when Arkansas won, you're in the media section. Bobby, you can't be cheering. You got to be professional. Got to keep it together. But when Arkansas got that rebound and won the game and went to the Sweet 16, I can't cheer. I can't yell. I can't fist pump. I can't do any of that. My emotions have to go somewhere. Like, they have to leave my body. And all it does is I just start crying. I just start crying. I can't, because I can't breathe because I got the mask on. And it was a surreal moment where I just really didn't think it was true until it happened. And to know what that feeling was like going to the Sweet 16, it was awesome. And it was unfortunate because you didn't have a whole lot of fans there because of the COVID stuff and all that. But just knowing for once, finally got to see what that feeling was like going back to the Sweet 16, getting to a point to where you felt like you deserved to be and beating a good team doing it. That was just it was an addicting feeling that I wish just, could have kept going. And it did for the next couple of years, but that was the first one. You always remember your first one. That was my first Sweet 16 I remember going to as a Razorback fan.
What a game that was. Like, I wasn't there. I was at home watching, obviously. That was intense. Like, that was a game. Like, that's really one of, and we could say this because we won, that's really like one of the most intense, that and the Kansas game were like two of the best games. And I don't want to just be saying it because we won, but those were like hard fought, possession for possession, both coaches going at it in both instances, the Kansas game but the Kansas game wasn't self out that game because I think their assistant coach was like going so hard because he was like trying to make sure they didn't lose in the tournament. Yeah, what game? That was a great game, the Texas Tech Chris Beard game. I'm curious if our number one's the same. Would you go first?
Okay, go first. And we're just talking about any Razorback, right?
It doesn't matter if it's a Razorback. If you're there,
if I'm there, I will throw in this. It's just unfortunate because people are going, this is sad that these are your favorites because it's that way. But I will admit that going and I'll stick with basketball. When Arkansas beat Gonzaga in San Francisco, that was the next year. And I think that was my number one of when I was being there because everyone was watching you. That was a number one overall seed where Gonzaga had the number one offense and the number one defense in the country. They were number one overall seed.
And Chet. And they had
Chet Holmgren, Andrew Timme was still on that team.
Yeah.
I mean, and you had nothing but, I think 3 of their starters, or at least contributors, were 6'11" or taller. And Arkansas, all you had was Jalen Williams at 6'10". I mean, that was essentially it. And you were going into that game, the Gonzaga fans were all there, and all the immediate attention was there in San Francisco, not only because of all that, but Coach K and Duke were there. Unfortunately, Arkansas lost the next game, but it was his last hurrah. So all the media, everybody had their eyes on that. And when Arkansas won that game, that was the first time where some people were saying, not that you got lucky the year before, but you beat Oral Roberts, the 15 seed, to go to the Elite Eight. But you beat the number one overall seed, and no one really gave you a shot at it. And when you won that game, it was great. And then I was there, so I didn't hear it. But if you watch highlights, and a lot of people watch it at home, hearing Jim Nantz, who's one of my favorite sports broadcasters, call that game and do just such an amazing job. And it still gives me chills to this day when Arkansas had essentially won it. He just drops the line of, Fayetteville is 1,843 miles away, but the call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco. Like, just magical. And that was a great feeling, too, of being there and winning, but doing it against a team that you on paper had no business even being in the game. Took care of business. You won. Everybody was giving you praise and kudos. And it was cool just being there in that moment with all the people around and all the big media people there seeing it. That was awesome.
My number one, and I'm a little older than you, but I was living in Little Rock, started in 2002, and we were War Memorial, and I had bad seats. End zone seats. It was broke. You wait till the last minute, buy them there. It's what we all were doing at 21, 22 years old, right? It's not like that this story's any different than any other Hog fan. And so, get tickets right before the game starts. And again, it's us and LSU and Matt Jones, and it comes down to the last possession. And I'm in the end zone where DeCorey Birmingham catches that ball. And I'm like 12, 13 rows up. We were right next to the LSU band and stuff too, so it was even better. And to watch him catch that ball, that miracle on Markham, and I was like, screw it. I've only ever ran on the field once. It was when we beat Alabama in Fayetteville earlier. It's the only time I ever got on the Jumbotron was that game when we beat Alabama and we stormed the field in Fayetteville. But I was like, you know what? I'm going on the field. I'm jumping on the field. There were so many that I thought, this is a numbers game. I'm not going to get caught. So I decide, and War Memorial, it's old, and it's not like a place you met. It's not like it's all cushions and good fall areas. And I'm like, screw it, I'm going. And I jump. Friends didn't go with me, and we win the game. And I land on a concrete roll, and I wipe out hard. But I'm embarrassed, but my adrenaline's pumping. And so I'm like, screw it. So I'm grabbing my leg. You ever see the clip on Madden? The guy throws. the Packer wide receiver, and he's like tears his hamstring. Yeah. Donald Driver, I think is who the player is.
Right. Darren
That's
Sharper.
what I'm doing through the field, Miracle on Markham, running through, go grabbing my leg, like, you can't stop me. You can't. I didn't even know where I was going. I had nobody to go to. I remember just like seeing players on the field, and it's like, you did it. And I would just go to the next one until finally there was nobody else, and I ran off the field. But that moment, all injured leg and all, like, I remember how excited I was and how much the pain didn't hurt till the next day when it was awful and I thought I broke my leg. Dude, that was awesome. Like, that doesn't happen to us. A Hail Mary-ish in the corner of the end zone to win the game. We drove the entire length of the field. Matt Jones, our quarterback savior. Dude, that was elite. So that's probably my number one that I was at. But see, this is the kind of show we should do when times get down. When things suck, we should just go, hey, man, things aren't going well. What's like a positive thing we can talk about that people will want to like go down and have nostalgia with? Because that's what we did there. I love it. Look, I live and die with the Hogs. And a lot of dying lately, but I can't wait to do a lot more living. So I put my money where my mouth is, and we'll keep going.
Well, you're number one. It would have been my number one. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. Like I always. I didn't know if you were going to pick that in, because you're probably. Yeah. You probably weren't in Little Rock at the time at all, right? No, what's sad is that I was in Little Rock because it was Thanksgiving, and we always went down to Rabbit Ridge for Thanksgiving, which is close, a little farm town close to Little Rock. But yeah, I was in Little Rock and everything. We just never went to any War Memorial games. And
you'd have probably broken a leg. You'd have done what I did, and you'd have been.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was listening to on the radio this thing called the radio that was really big back then.
You know, I want to say something too, and I know you're probably out of time, but if I can have a couple minutes here.
Of course.
So I see a lot of people that will, and can I talk about other media personalities? You cool with that?
Absolutely. I do all the time.
Okay, good. I really like Bo and Chuck. Like I do. I like them a lot. As people, they've been so nice to me. I feel bad for them at times because people give them a whole lot of crap for being sunshine pumpers. Dude, they get paid by the university. What are they supposed to do? Like, people will be like, Bo and Chuck, they're being fake positive. If most of your paycheck was from the university, you would protect the paycheck. Those guys love the Hog, no doubt about it. They love them like you and I love them. And I wish people could see that they probably turn the microphones off and go, oh man, that's tough. That's tough to keep it so positive. So I want everybody to pump the brakes on hating on my guys. Yeah, they sunshine pump, and it's extremely positive at times when it shouldn't be. But if like 70 or 80% of your check came from the university, you would too. Like, so think about it before you go after them on the internet. So I just wanted to step in and say that, understand who you're talking to huge Hog fans, and they probably know that what they're saying probably isn't totally accurate. And I would do the same thing if most of my check came. I wish my check came from the university. Dude, I would be like, we're 0-4 in the SEC, and I'd find some weird lovable stat like 0-4, that means you're going to heaven. I would do that. So let's get off my guys. You're my favorite. They're like 2A and 2B, and let's just win some freaking games, you know?
Yeah, see, that's, I think, what everybody just wants to do at the end of the day is just win. And regardless of how it happens, but that's where Razorback fans just get they're upset and they're mad, and
that's all we have. We need it to be good. We need it to be good.
I know. That's all I want is just to be good and to be able to do shows, do podcasts, do live streams, do all those things, talking about good stuff.
I think that you are what I like about what you do specifically is that even if I or whomever doesn't like your opinion, I think there's always a respect that you are actually giving an opinion, because at times it can be uncomfortable to push. Listen, I spent a lot of my career doing uncomfortable things that people don't like at times. And I don't have to always agree with you to respect you. And I think that what you do and how you do it, at times I know that's got to be hard for you as well, to be the biggest Hog fan in the whole world, up in that tier of like, we would give anything. I would cut off a pinky for a football national championship. If they're like, nobody has to know, but you can chop off a pinky and you win a national championship, would you do it? The answer is yes, I would do it. Yeah. I would have 4 freaking fingers, and you would do the same. And it's hard to be that guy and also be vocal when it's not always positive. So I commend you for that, because I know that's got to be uncomfortable for you sometimes, and I respect it because I know how hard it is. So keep up the good work. You and the guys, you cover the stuff. It's wonderful. I can't wait to win again. And if anybody out there is like, I sure would like to hear more, I'll just plug my NFL show. The NFL's hired me, which is great. Can't believe it. I always say I signed a contract with the NFL to sound like a player. I'm actually not a player, but I just say that. I'm like, yeah, I signed a deal with the NFL. But Matt Castle, who played for the Patriots when Brady went down, and the Chiefs for a few years, and was a backup quarterback with like the Titans after he got hurt. Him and I do a show together. It's called Lots to Say, and NFL put us on like 3 weeks ago, and we've had some awesome guests so far. We've had Boomer Esiason, Tim McGraw, Jared Allen was at the house for like an hour. He just got nominated for the Hall of Fame again. It's a real fun show. If you love it, check out Lots to Say. Otherwise, man, keep up the freaking good work. It's so cool to see the risks you've taken and what you've built, and it'll be fun to watch more failures of you, but mostly it'll be to take those failures and turn them into massive successes, because you don't have one without the other. So I'm really happy to see you doing so well, man.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And I always appreciate your support and what you've given me and given us at Inside Arkansas and everything. It's been awesome. And yeah, just continuing to grow and continuing to hopefully, again, we can control. We can't control the success or the failures of the Razorbacks, but we can certainly try to make it interesting enough to people to consume it and check it out. But it's
we can always talk about our favorite memories from our lifetime of being at Razorback games.
That's right. We'll always have those. Those can never be taken away from us, no matter what. But it's Bobby Bones of the Bobby Bones Show. You can follow him on Twitter and social media at Mr. Bobby Bones. And Bobby, as always, man, we appreciate you joining us. Appreciate your support, man. And hopefully we get some positivity. You start feeling good as a Razorback fan once again, man. It's going to be a big spring, but hopefully that happens for you and all the Razorback fans out there.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
All right, so that was Bobby Bones joining us, and appreciate each and every one of you who listened in and watched in here to Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to us here on Inside Arkansas at all of our social medias, our YouTube page. Check out our website at Inside Arkansas, and you can also follow all of our podcasts wherever podcasts are found, on Spotify, on Apple, and everything like that. So, but really appreciate all of you. Yes, even you Kentucky fans who have so graciously surprised us with your presence. But it's going to be a great weekend. Be sure to check out Pot at the Palace post-game show tomorrow following Arkansas and Missouri. We'll do it all right here on Inside Arkansas. So for Andrew Ellis, Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel. Next Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you then.